How would you describe seeing poetry in motion without using the perhaps cliché phrase? I would use Ghost of Tsushima. Each slash of the sword rhymes with the last. There are no full stops between story, exploration, and combat. The island encapsulates more than flowery language could possibly depict, and stunning music provides a melodious experience that transcends the dull cadence of spoken word. Pampas grass whipped my legs as the horse galloped through it. The smell of burnt corpses skewered outside Mongol camps invaded my nostrils without remorse. Kenji sake burned my throat as it trickled down it, providing respite from the horrors ahead of me. This is meant to be a video game. Only two of my senses are fully engaged, and yet I could quite clearly describe to you how it felt lowering myself into the warm and relaxing hot springs dotted around Tsushima. I love using cliché phrases. It allows me to understand why it was thought of in the first place, and to truly appreciate how well it defines an otherwise indescribable feeling. Ghost of Tsushima is a cliché in that there are many open-world, combat and stealth-based RPGs set in a world slightly more mystical than the one we live in, but it's so close to perfection that the others pale in comparison. I love using cliché phrases, but only the good ones. The visuals are impossible to ignore, from landscapes that stretch over the entire island to simple forests that breathe as you pause to watch the sun go down through the trees. Some of you might be thinking, yeah, but you might have spent 30 minutes in photo mode in order to get these shots, but dearie me, no, this game has been lathered until dripping with an atmosphere that even the most incredibly composed virtual pictures cannot capture, the most emotive language cannot explain. Which begs the question, why am I even trying? The island shows you how beautiful it is, so that when you see this beauty marred in any way, shape or form, you can't help but do something about it. As you trek your way up the island, each location will etch itself into your memory as if it were painted onto your eyeballs. Each objective and secret you find will feel so inexplicably unique and yet so obviously cohesive. Throughout the island there are monuments, shrines and graveyards oozing sanctity and ethereal vibes to the point where I found myself bowing in respect to things completely unprompted. The provided moments of introspection are rarely enough to take in what this game has to offer. Venturing off the beaten path allows you to truly absorb the cold grey stones, the thundering waterfalls and the quiet chirping of birds. Moments of quiet are to be appreciated, and Sucker Punch doesn't forget to reward your engrossment every now and then. I suppose specifics are in order. Shinto shrines are few and far between, but for good reason. They reward you with a charm that has a potential to completely alter your playstyle, offering vast build variety. But you have to earn it. A perilous parkour puzzle, some slightly perturbing, others quite plain, all of them very fun. Once you reach the top, you're blessed with a lovely view, a charm, and a handy shortcut back to the bottom to conveniently continue your adventure. Hot springs provide a nice view of Jin's butt, and a small health increase. Bamboo strikes give you more resolve and a sometimes deceptively difficult APM test, and Inari shrines unlock charm slots and increase the power of the Charm of Silence and the Charm of Inari's Might. If you don't know what they are, it means you haven't played the game. If my opening spiel has made you want to, I highly advise not watching the rest of the video and playing it for yourself. Consider that another spoiler warning. There are other collectibles, most of them cosmetic, some in quite predictable locations, some not. Feeling the beating pulse of your controller will excite you every time, unless it's that one guy outside Yarikawa Gate. I must have spent half an hour only to figure out that the collectible I was being notified about was the flag on his back. However, that was the only bug I could say influenced my playthrough. I feel hesitant to compare it to most recent releases, all things considered, but you will not see that botch standard replicated here. This game is blemish-free, continuing the brilliant reputation of PlayStation exclusives. I've never enjoyed exploring a video game world as much as the island of Tsushima, from the scenic and heavily detailed stages of the mythic tales to the wonderfully simple and charismatic fox dens. I consider myself quite the explorer in open world games, and I only managed to find 2 of the Inari shrines without the fox's help. Not that I was looking especially hard for them, I much preferred following the fox. But by far and away, the optional objective I looked forward to stumbling across the most were the haikus. The answer as to why lies in the definition of the word frisson. Frisson is a shudder of emotional excitement, but for me it's more tingly. It's that feeling you get when you hear your favourite song being played live for the first time, or when everyone bows to the hobbits at the end of The Lord of the Rings. Maybe my brain is rigged to poetry in some way, but the ability to craft the haiku in the way that I felt best represented the theme provided, and have the provided options be so well written, made me ecstatic. That tingle was sent careering up my spine during all but 2 of the haikus. Every now and then I would scoff at the chosen location and revile about how many places I'd found for myself that would have served the purpose far better, only to sit down and find that I could not have been more wrong. The scenes provide a canvas for the poem, the words provide the theme, and all that's left for you is to choose the options that resonate the most. Being rewarded with an intricately detailed headband for each completion is a nice reminder of what you've created. Nothing captures the brutal serenity of Tsushima like sitting down and constructing a haiku overlooking a village recently torched by Mongol invaders. The embedding of the game elements into a living world is masterfully done, without even needing to mention the wind or the birds, which were the target of most people's compliments. I found as I played I relied less on the wind or the map for exploration, guiding myself using the imaginative visual prompts, or just heading to whatever looked interesting. The HUD-less gameplay when out of combat provokes in you a powerful sense of belonging, so that when combat starts and it shows up, you wish it could just not. I think working the health and any other gameplay indicator into the visuals without relying on a HUD would be a transformative experience for the player and help drive game design away from the laziness of just slapping a red bar on the screen. But then the combat actually starts, and cripes, this is on a whole other level. I can show you footage, which I am going to do, but it will not do justice to how it felt to perform. The myriad tools available to the Ghost complement a style of fighting that encourages you to use the full extent of your arsenal, and the intuitive button mapping meant that it was all so easy to get to. It does enough to allow an individual to stick to a specific build. You might like to use the bow and arrow and maybe chuck a few bombs in there for good measure, or you might prefer to use a full-on samurai approach of no tools, all sword. But it makes armor switching so easy, encouraging you to have multiple builds. Deciding how you'll dismantle the enemy camp is just a few button presses away. It could be different every time.
I need your blade. Won't hold out much longer. Sakai, I need your blade. Won't hold out much longer. My lord.
The outfit customization aids this by making each outfit look unique as well as feel unique. I perhaps spent a little too long colour coding my sets, especially considering I spent most of my time in the traveller's attire anyway. I'm not the most fashion-forward person alive, and yet when I found this red hat, I think I might have squealed at how perfectly it fit my Ronin attire. The Ghost attire is the most special, Taka's masterpiece. So the platinum reward being a die on the armour regardless of it being the ugliest I've ever seen, was satisfying. The story is certainly not dull, but neither is it outstanding, though I would give it more credit than others have. The core ideas show sufficiently samurai symptoms such as honour, family and pride. However, as Jin strays further and further from the path of the samurai, the story complicates a little. Characters live and breathe in this world, so when they're taken away from it, it stings. Then there are characters who are usually not characters at all, suddenly experiencing the consequences of your actions, and at the very least I experienced sadness that I was not expecting. There is no replacing a close companion. When the thread is cut, there's no gluing it back together. The lack of player choice may feel restrictive, but it allowed the devs to put together a powerful story that reminded me why writing is so important. We do not suffer from ludonarrative dissonance here either. It is rooted into the gameplay that as Jin slays his way through the Mongols, his legend increases to the point where even the local residents begin to fear him. The tales of his deeds are widespread and rife with misinformation, making him out to be a 10-foot-tall demon in some instances. The fact that the game so often crosses the line between realistic and mystical means that when I heard this remark for the first time, I nodded understandingly. Masako and her blood-drenched revenge quest was the most engaging. Her tale felt tied to mine. Her anguish affected me, and watching her descent into violent solutions adjusted the way I approached the only choice given to me at the end of the story. That choice ends the game, and serves as a powerful beginning to another story best left untouched from a gameplay perspective. Much like finishing the game itself, I'm hesitant to end the video. Perhaps I'm worried about missing things, or that I've not done the game justice. I can only hope that my video has captured Ghost of Tsushima in a way that only a cliché can. Thank you for watching.